to Business, powered by the WRHN Health Network Foundation. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend Greg DeRocher, President and CEO of the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce. I'm Ian McLean, President and CEO of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce. We have a great show this week.
Yeah.
And with one of our favorite people, of course, JD Bellavance, the Ottawa Bureau Chief for La Presse. Busy week. There's lots happening on the trade front and negotiations in Washington. But there's also lots happening in Canada. We got municipal elections, provincial elections, and reactions to a variety of different things that are upcoming. And we're joined later in the show by Corey Lasso, and he's the president of Chart Design and Build, which is a construction and development firm. And he's going to talk about Chart Drive for Kids' Mental Health, a golf tournament on August the 18th, and the story that he has to tell of why he's been involved, which is quite remarkable. So. Great show today, and Greg, one of the things this week, you read, I think, I don't know, maybe it was Monday or Tuesday, and there was a headline, maybe it was Tuesday, and it was like they broke the news that the appointment of the regional chair was not going to be someone who had just run for election. It would be someone separate who, and it didn't make much sense to me because this has been sort of bandied around of, they'll appoint someone who's just been elected. I say it's illegal to hold more than one office in Canada, as far as I can tell, or for the most part. So, and in any event, at least it's cleared up, and we know who's running for mayor in each of the communities, and it's still the speculation of how they're going to appoint someone to effectively be a board chair for the regional Waterloo, and so that speculation will continue on. While the election's ongoing.
Yeah, I think first of all, to tell you the honest truth, Ian, when you first talked to me about this a couple of weeks ago, we had a telephone conversation, but I thought, like, Ian's lost his brains, because there is no possible way the premier of the province would think about giving a full-time job to a person who just got elected to a full-time job, both being elected, but being elected in different areas of the exact same municipal jurisdiction. And I thought that there's no way that could happen. But we did find out that, yes, in fact, the government was kind of thinking along that path. And while we've got it kind of clarified a little bit in the region of Waterloo, quite frankly, we hear rumors of other regional jurisdictions where it may well happen. I think, personally, it's the biggest problem the provincial government is going to have going forward. It's going to knock them on their behinds, because people are not going to accept this. If, for example, you had one of the mayors in the region of Waterloo appointed by the province of Ontario to also, not instead of, but also chair the regional municipality of Waterloo, there would be a natural bias to them being also the mayor of the community that they represent. So it simply wouldn't be perceived as fair. Even if it was fair, it wouldn't be perceived as fair, and it would cause problems. And here's where the problem I see, and I think you and I had a discussion with one of our favorite individuals this past week, and I said, that it's going to haunt the province for the entire 4 years of that term of that individual or those individuals. So why would you even do that? Don't even start down that path. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, and and I would tell you that it wasn't me that came up with it. I mean, people in elected office in other communities, other chamber presidents said, "Hey, we're hearing rumors in York and Durham and Peel and other places that province was going to appoint someone who had just been elected as mayor." And I said, that can't possibly be true. And lo and behold, it was on people's tongues here in Waterloo region. So whether it was in a variety of civil, and I said, well, it just can't, because the way I look at this is, we know that being a mayor is a full-time job. We know Barry and Dorothy and others and Jan, they're putting 50, 60, 70 hours a week. You can't possibly do that job and be the regional chair. So the practical nature. But even more than that, as you say, is like you couldn't possibly do it because Mayor of Waterloo, as an example, and regional chairs, strong mayor and chair powers, would control 82 to 83% of every dollar spent in the region of Waterloo.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Possibly do that. So, anyways, it's been fascinating. But I think what I hope that in it's now out there, other communities will be having same conversations, I'm sure, around making sure that their people that are running for mayor are very clear that they will not seek nor accept a regional chair job in addition to that. So that's going to be helpful. But I think it opens up the question of what are we looking for in terms of being regional chair.
Of course.
And it's less a political person, in my view, than it is a community person who's going to manage all of the, the various aspects of the community. And so someone who, whether they've had elected office or not, shouldn't be the one thing. It should be, do they know the community? Do they know how to deliver on plans? Have they hired and fired before? Have they chaired boards or been on large organizations? And I think, I hope
have they ever been a leader, let alone an effective leader?
Yeah. And
I think that's really important because that's really what the job is, right? The job is leading.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's going to be interesting to see how things evolve, because I mean, it's clear even for the province's website, they will not be making an appointment until November 2026 after the elections are over. Yep. So hopefully they're going to take a step back, maybe think about what are the skills that they want.
So I had the solution for the problem. As you well know, the solution was, I think that the premier should appoint you as the regional.
And I said, my response was, when hell freezes over. I think there's lots of good choices. I am not one of them.
Yeah, I think it was more descriptive than that, but yeah, let's.
It was, but I this is a family show, so I'm gonna leave that aside. I think there's lots of very qualified people if they want to do it outside. Someone who has served the community well. There's lots of choices that don't have to involve someone who's just recently been elected. So, any event, okay. When we come back after the break, we're going to be joined by our good friend Joel-Denis Bellavance, the Ottawa Bureau Chief for La Presse. We'll be back with more on Business to Business, powered by the Waterloo Region Health Network Foundation.
The Waterloo Regional Health Network Foundation is innovating healthcare every day in the Waterloo region. It is our collective responsibility to support our hospitals so that they can have the equipment necessary, not only to care for us, but to inspire the best and brightest healthcare minds to come and make a home right here in the Waterloo region. You may not need them today, but there will be a day when we all do. Reach deep if you can and give generously.
This segment of Business to Business is sponsored by the Workplace and Immigrant Network of Waterloo Region, a project by the Workforce Planning Board of Waterloo, Wellington and Dufferin, bringing employers and employees together.
Welcome back to Business to Business, powered by the Waterloo Region Health Network Foundation. As promised, we are joined by the voted by the Parliamentary Press Gallery as the journalist with the best smile and the best laugh in Ottawa, Joel-Denis Bellavance, the Ottawa Bureau Chief for La Presse. And I don't know why we're so excited, because the topic we're going to get to...
MVP goaltender as well, by the way.
MVP goaltender of his beer hockey league. Yeah. That's true. But I don't know why we're happy today, because it seems that Donald Trump is doing his level best to piss off everyone in Canada right across the board. We're getting to the short strokes on the negotiations, Greg. From the sounds of it, and you can kind of give what you've heard and get from JD, but Americans think that they have us over a barrel, and I think that they're mistaking the Canadian sense of wherewithal that we are not going to take a bad deal and bend over for or bend on bended knee for Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, JD, we're recording this on the 13th of October. It's going to be run on August, and it's going to be played on the 16th of August, 3 days before the new tariffs are going to be coming into play. The only people on the planet Earth that believe Donald Trump when Donald Trump says Canada has nothing we need are the MAGA hardcore and even the Canadian MAGA hardcore. They're the only people on the planet that believes that, because everybody else knows with certainty we provide America with stuff that they have to have. So we're coming to the crossroads, but give us the updated version of where is Dominic LeBlanc right now and his team? What hurdles do they have to overcome, and where do you think it's going to go?
Well, what I can tell you is that there are exchange of proposals, but at the end of the day, some of the proposals are not, meeting the Canadian demands, because the U.S. would like to have full access to our market, and in return would also like to have some tariffs imposed on some of our key exportations. So the bottom line, I think that we know that tariffs is part of the political economic DNA of Donald Trump. He believes in tariffs. And I think that notwithstanding what will be put forward or agreed on, I think we'll have to accept the fact that there will be tariffs imposed on Canadian imports to the United States, exports to the United States, as a matter of the basis of the new commercial relationship between Canada and the United States. So that's the bottom line. Canada would like to have a global deal that would see all the tariffs on aluminum, steel, the automobile sector, lumber, all disappear. In exchange, we would put back the American booze in our stores. We would also agree to stop some counter tariffs on some key parts of the automobile, and also maybe agree to discuss redistribution of the quota on milk and some products of milk. That's what we have gotten so far. But the Canadian negotiators do not seem to be happy with what the U.S. is putting forward. So are we at a stalemate, an impasse? I don't know. We'll find out. They're hoping to present a deal on Monday of this week to President Trump. And depending on the mood of the president, will he sign it, reject it, impose new tariffs? God knows. And the devils may have some insights too.
Or is it going to be another Taco Tuesday? Is it going to be another Taco Tuesday?
But JD, the issue that, I mean, the sense that you get, and I mean, I watch our friend who well, Flavio Volpe, saying,
Yep.
The auto sector can't accept 10 or 15% tariffs and still survive on either side of the border, for that matter. But so like when we're talking about some tariffs and remember that the auto sector is integrally linked with aluminum and steel surcharges as well. I just don't get the sense that there's a lot of momentum or understanding that we're going to get anything in the deal that would make it a deal worth signing. And the reason I say that, I think it was maybe Wednesday or Thursday this past week, where they actually let the negotiators at the U.S. Trade Representative's office say, if this is the best you got, we won't be able to sell this to Canada. And if that's the case, we'll walk away. And we have to be prepared to do that, JD, because I mean,
that's a critical point that you're mentioning. In the mood of Canadian people is that no more concessions. We're no longer willing to make any concessions to Donald Trump after what happened in the last few months. We accepted some concessions. We decided to cancel the so-called Netflix tax, digital services tax. We accepted to share the revenues coming from the tolls on the Gordie Howe Bridge. Even though we paid the full thing on the bridge, we accepted to introduce quickly a law to control better forced labor products that come into Canada. We've done a lot of things, but what did that give us in return? Nothing. Nothing except, I would say, probably despicable comments on the part of the U.S. president towards Canada. He despises us. So he does not respect us. So what are we going to do with that? And I can tell you that the mood of Canadians, from what I hear from people in Quebec, even talking to you, and you express opinions of your own business people, is that we've had it with Trump.
I would probably say from my perspective, if August the 19th comes along and there's no movement on the side of the Americans to recognize the value that Canada has to their economic well-being, I say we turn off the taps, we turn off the switches for the electricity, we send them no more minerals, and we tell them our steel is bought and sold by somebody else. Finished. End of story. That's too bad, Donald Trump. You said you needed nothing that Canada has. Well, let's see how long your business community accepts the fact they can no longer get anything from Canada. And I think you would see that change within hours, not days, but within hours.
And I would add to that the aluminum industry. The United States does not produce enough aluminum to satisfy the needs of its industry.
Right.
And they've been buying and aluminum at a higher cost as a result of the tariffs. Yep. And I'm told by the leader of the Aluminum Association of Canada, Jean Simard, that it has increased the aluminum tariffs, has increased the cost of a car by $2,500 a year.
Wow.
That's major. So Americans cannot afford to buy new cars. It is hurting their own auto industry because the cars are getting too expensive. So it has multiple repercussions on the U.S. economy, and Donald Trump does not get it.
No. Let me ask you this, because I mean, again, it's true. I mean, there's lots of varying opinions in both our chambers. You'll find people who are saying, we need a deal. But I think for the most part, Greg, because we always ask about this, how are you doing? How are tariffs affecting you? How's your supply chain? People are hurting. They want a resolution. They need certainty, all the things we talk about. But there are very few people who are saying at any cost. There's very few people. They're saying, we are not prepared to give in to Donald Trump. That's the overwhelming view that I have from this community, our members. So, JD, the question to you, and Greg, if you want to weigh in, is there, like, how much, because this has created pain, uncertainty, etc. I actually think you're closer to the truth than you think, Greg. I'm not entirely sure we'll shut everything down. But on the 19th, if those tariffs come in, is to say, that's it. We're, on the things, aluminum and steel, we'll see how long their plants stay open if those things go. I don't think you can turn off the electricity, but if you do some of those things and say, we have other markets to sell and critical minerals, I think you said at the top of the show or before we went on, Greg, that seems to be the buzz, is they want special access to our critical minerals, all the while holding us at gunpoint. I just don't get it. And so, JD, how do you feel that the political mood is for standing firm in what could be a lot worse before it gets better?
Yeah, I think this is the last chance to get a deal that will satisfy the Canadian people and the Canadian government until we go through the next step, which would be probably retaliate. I think the Prime Minister has made it clear that if those tariffs go ahead against Canada on other products, 50%, and we will have to retaliate. We have no choice, because otherwise we're just going to be rolling over, as to use an expression by Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, and we can't do that anymore, because at some point you have to make it clear to the United States that what they're doing is hurting our economy, yes, but they're hurting also their own economy, the future relationship with the country. Now, you talk about critical mineral. There's also potash. And Jean Chrétien, the former prime minister, told me, if you want to get the Republican Party to move, you do something that affects farmers in the United States. They're all Republicans, and they're all in big states, red states, and they are well organized. So do something that would affect farmers, agricultures in the United States, and then you'll get moving quite fast on many fronts.
Just one follow-up, because I think that's absolutely true. And I guess this is the question is, to this point, for the most part, the Prime Minister has said, here's the game plan. He's keeping the premiers up to speed. There's been some modest, differences, but I would say very modest. Everyone's in the same church, in the same pew, reading from the same song sheet right now. Are we going to be able to keep everyone in the same church, same pew, and the same song sheet? Let's assume that we don't get a deal and there's more tariffs. How likely is that going to happen? Because that's the one part that Trump is banking on, is that we fight amongst ourselves and don't stay united.
That's a critical point that you're making, and the latest tariffs that could be imposed on us have been designed so that it would sow division within Canada, because it would hurt Ontario, Quebec, British Columbia, and spare provinces like Alberta and Saskatchewan that produce energy and potash, for example. And so that's the critical element. And I feel like watching Doug Ford, he's like a lion in a cage. If you bug him too much, he will roar and make sure that the door of the cage opens so he can come and bite you somewhere that will hurt on your behind.
Yep. I think you're exactly right, JD. And I think so. Worst case scenario, really, these tariffs come in really bad because they probably hurt the smallest of enterprises, really, in a lot of cases. Somebody. Hespler hockey sticks, they're very small little companies.
Just quickly on this one, I was told by a specialist of trade that they were designed to hurt small towns with one industry, critical to the economy of that small town. It's called mono-industrial businesses. And so they did their homework quite well, the United States people, to identify the products that could, turn an economy of a small town upside down, because they have one industry that they rely upon to pay the bill. So this is a parenthesis that I want to do.
What's really interesting is, if Canada reciprocated on doing something, we could withhold some minerals or some steel or whatever. We could hurt big companies in big cities, which would be a bigger disaster for them. And we could target it just for red state cities that are there as well. And I think here's where the real problem is going to be, because Donald Trump has started this war. I think, worst case scenarios, we're going to have to wait until the midterms are over before anything's going to kind of settle down here. And if Congress flips, then hopefully Congress will take the ball with respects to tariffs and say, no, sorry, we're in charge of taxation. You're not in charge of taxation. And the game is over from that perspective. However, what remains in the balance is the Kuzma agreement. We need to have resolution around that. And hopefully, possibly, I think by that time, we won't be able to renegotiate or extend the Kuzma agreement until Donald Trump is literally chained to a block wall inside a prison somewhere, probably. But at some point, that's going to be the end game. The end game is to try and resolve that. I'd love to see him.
Greg, I was going to say, this is one, if ever it's from your lips to God's ears, I really just want that to be a straight line, because that would be in everyone's interest.
Just one point that I want to make, though, is that we're hoping that, the Congress could be flipped to a Democrat, or the next person who occupies the White House will be more, amenable to Canada. But don't forget that the United States government is becoming truly dependent on the revenues coming from the tariffs. It's a big source of revenue, even though it's been deemed illegal in some form by the courts. It has become a source of revenue that is precious for this government. Otherwise, as I read my colleague Andrew Coyne in the Global Mail, the United States is close to the fiscal cliff in terms of revenues and expenses.
I've read some of that too, but the flip side to that is, yes, they're getting tariff revenue, but they're also their economic growth, which is the biggest source of revenue that comes in, is just GDP growth, growing the pie. That's slowing down because of the tariffs. So, I mean, the fact of the matter is, there's lots of views on how this could impact. I think the clearest one that you say, though, is Democrats that come in are not going to be suddenly Ronald Reagan free traders, but they're also not complete morons that won't be able to see tariffs equals less jobs in my district. So we probably get to whatever the end state looks like. I wanted to go back to the part. The reason I asked the question because I think this is important for us, not only as business leaders, Greg, but as journalists and for community leaders right across the country. Standing up to Donald Trump's one thing. If the tariffs come in, and how much support, how much red ink are Canadians prepared to say, boy, oh boy, you got to support steel and aluminum and the hockey stick industry, and go up and down the list and say, we're not leaving anyone behind. We are going to have programs to support workers, support businesses, much like COVID, of saying there really is no end to what we're going to do until we get through this. Do you get the sense? Because that's the sense that everyone is like, how far are Canadians themselves prepared to go? But I get the sense, Greg, that if it's going to cost what it's going to cost to not give in to Donald Trump. I mean, that's my view. It's kind of what I hear. How does the government view it, JD?
I agree with you, and I think that the recent data have shown that the Canadian economy is being more resilient than we thought about. The tariffs war. The economy produced 75,000 jobs. My numbers are correct, that in July, while the American lost 23,000 jobs. And then without those numbers, the federal deficit for the first 2 months of the fiscal year 2026-2027 has been less than the first 2 years of last year. 8.4 billion deficit compared to 10 billion deficit last year. So in terms of revenue, they're up. And the economy is growing still, because I think there is one reason that we forgot about all of this, is that, as Greg wisely pointed out, the America needs Canada's products, and they buy it, even though it's getting more expensive. One case in point is aluminum. They can't produce aluminum, and they're buying it at the full cost with the tariffs imposed by Donald Trump. And the result of it is that we're still sending a lot of aluminum to the United States. We've been able to ship more to Europe, yes, but the United States, because they cannot produce it and because they cannot put together a plant to produce it, they are, if I may say, forced to buy from us at the full price with the tariffs. So maybe there are some things to explore there, that the economy is doing better because the United States depend too much on Canada.
I want to tell you, if you want to look at the resiliency of the two countries right now, we have a better chance at riding out a hardcore campaign of saying we're going to stop sending everything to the United States. They can't get a thing. We've got a better chance than they do, because they're going to, they need that stuff every single day. We're the largest trading partner. We're the most important asset in the world to them, and they don't understand it. That Donald Trump does, but he's trying to be a bully with it.
And then I'll give you a metaphor on this. We have a smaller boat, but their boat is full of water.
Yeah, exactly.
It's drinking water.
Yep.
And ours is not. So
no,
it is shocking to see how uninformed Americans generally are about Canada. Mm-hmm. And in this circumstance, certainly enough of his base believes it, that because you got to show me who the 30% are who still think that Donald Trump's doing a good job with the economy. Like, I got to really question what level of education they have, because boy, oh boy, there's on no basis, on zero basis as how he's improved the economy for Americans. But it is shocking that they are this is a disaster of their own making. And he's doubling down, Greg, to your point of saying he's going to try and bully his way out.
Yeah.
And no, and people, when they say, and I think it's, and we've talked about this, JD, you've said, others have been on, Flavio said, hey, let's give them the facts, let them come to their own conclusion. The fact is, even if they want to say, oh, we're going to reshore aluminum production, they don't have enough energy in the country to do it. They'd have to build, I don't know how many energy plants, which take years, then build it just simply can't happen. So Greg, your point. So we'll be back with more on Business to Business, powered by the Waterloo Region Health Network Foundation.
The Waterloo Regional Health Network Foundation is innovating healthcare every day in the Waterloo region. It is our collective responsibility to support our hospitals, so that they can have the equipment necessary, not only to care for us, but to inspire the best and brightest healthcare minds to come and make a home right here in the Waterloo region. You may not need them today, but there will be a day when we all do. Reach deep if you can and give generously.
This segment of Business to Business is sponsored by the Workplace and Immigrant Network of Waterloo Region, a project by the Workforce Planning Board of Waterloo, Wellington and Dufferin, bringing employers and employees together.
Welcome back to Business, powered by the Waterloo Region Health Network Foundation. We continue to be joined after our little break that we took there, so Gregory could brush his hair and get a fresh coffee for this next segment. We continue to be joined by Joel-Denis Bellavance, the Ottawa Bureau Chief for La Presse. We talked a little bit about a lot about the free trade or trade negotiations. Greg, there's lots happening in Canada beyond.
I'm glad you reframed that and said free trade. I mean, trade negotiations.
Yeah, well,
nothing free about this.
Nothing free about it anymore. But there's lots happening in Canada. We have referendums in Alberta. There's a Quebec election, which it would appear could change, but JD can inform us. Yeah, it's probably even money that the Parti Québécois, which is the separatist party, is going to be elected in Quebec City. There's municipal elections all over Ontario. I don't know if there's others around the country. So it's election season. Lots happening.
Yeah, JD. I think it's really important. While we need to concentrate heavily, and we need you to help us navigate this whole trade negotiation with the United States, I think we can't forget about the fact that we have a government in Canada. We have issues in Canada. We need those kind of monitored and taken care of, and we certainly appreciate every second that you offer us to inform us as to what's going on, but more importantly, our listeners as well. But so we're heading into the fall of 2026. We're heading into the fall of 2026 with a majority government.
Yep.
And that's important.
It's a critical element. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I would argue.
So the new agenda going forward, and we're going to have a budget this fall as well. So, maybe kind of give us your impression as a journalist following this. What are you going to be? Where are your eyes going to be focused, and where are your ears going to be embedded through this next few months into the fall?
Well, I'll be watching whether there will be a cabinet shuffle. I've been asking around, and the appetite for a big cabinet shuffle is not there. I was expecting the Prime Minister to have done one during the summer, so he would, prepare for the fall sitting. But it's not necessarily on, but it's something to be a watch. You're right that the Finance Minister, François-Philippe Champagne, is preparing the next federal budget. And now a critical element is that will the government announce that it will extend the suspension of the excess tax on gas?
Excise tax on gas.
Yes. It's supposed to end on September 7th. And there's already a lot of pressure on the government to extend it beyond that date until the end of the year by the Ford government, by the Conservative Party, and by the Taxpayers Federation. So that's something to watch because it costs a lot of money to the Treasury. It's $2.4 billion for the period that was announced from April to September. And so that's money that's not going to be used for something else, programs or investment in roads or etc. So that's something to follow. Something else to follow, which will be of interest to your listeners, is the investment summit that will take place in September in Toronto.
Oh, yeah.
I would say that this is our Davos moment in terms of attracting possible investors, foreign investors to Canada. And the list is already pretty long of big pockets, companies, and investors that are coming up to Canada in Toronto for that investment summit. So while the United States is damaging its own economy by imposing tariffs on the rest of the planet, we are trying to secure investment in our own country. And another thing that to be watched is whether the constructions of a new oil pipeline between Alberta and British Columbia will be referred to the national big project of National Bureau le Bureau des grands projets in French.
Oh,
So
projects of national importance.
yeah, the major projects office. Yeah,
Major projects.
that for projects that are of national importance. So that's expected to be in early September. So there you go. You've got a lot of stuff on the economy that will be dealt with by the government, and also big by-elections coming up in near Toronto, federal by-election, also in the region of Vancouver, but more importantly, in the riding of Chicoutimi-Lafière. You remember the Prime Minister Mark Carney pulled a trick that, reminding me of the style of Jean Chrétien when he appointed a Tory senator in the Senate to make vacate a riding so he can capture that riding after and increase the majority. That's typical Jean Chrétien politics. Yeah. So it's marvelous to see that from the Prime Minister, and he's been campaigning in that riding. Ministers will be going in. And if the Liberals steal that riding from the Conservative Party, my gosh, mark my word, this is going to be the end of Pierre Poilievre, because he will have lost another riding to the Liberal Party.
Yeah. It's interesting, polls are polls, although you're starting to see a trend, which is the Liberals are up or at least staying steady and the Tories are going down, and it's really leadership numbers underlying that. One of the things that I observed this week, and it's an American, I think it was either the chair of Bloomberg News, but anyways, it came
Alex Winkler. Yeah, Mr. Winkler. Yes.
And he just basically said, hey, look, Canada and Mark Carney are bringing in investment. They are the, if you will, the Western world's superstars right now. And he said, you can't argue with the numbers, the investments that are pouring into Canada. And remember, this was one of the big criticisms of the Conservatives under in the Trudeau, is that we were not getting those types of foreign direct investment and investment from around the world. The world is noticing what Canada has been doing in the face of America, and a lot of it is, they're not all done, but projects are being moved forward, and investors are saying it is a place that if I put my capital and time my capital, it's not going to be 10 or 15 years. The payoff starts in 3, 5, 7 years, which for big projects, that's actually a short time horizon. So, I mean, it seems to me that what the rest of the world is viewing of how things are going in Canada, that's a positive for us as we look at the Canadian landscape.
Yeah, and I think that you make a good point, referring to Max Winkler, the editor-in-chief of Bloomberg News. I used that in a column that I ran in La Presse, explaining if you want to know what's going on, you have to follow the money. Like police people follow the money to link organized crimes, what they do with the money. But if you follow the money, you know how the economy is doing. And I guess you could say that the game plan that Mr. Carney put together while he became Prime Minister is starting to bear fruits. If we follow the money, if we follow what people are saying about Canada as a good place to invest. And that's why I pointed out the summit, investment summit that Mr. Carney is organizing. This is the very first one that will take place in Canada. Can you imagine Justin Trudeau, former woman, organizing such a summit? No, it would be a summit to present excuse to the whole world, I guess.
Sadly, I couldn't even imagine Pierre Poilievre organizing a summit like this.
But that is a critical moment, because it's going to be the moment to showcase Canada as a reliable economic partner for the rest of the world. And so this, I'm told, will be followed by announcement of big investment in the fall. So it's all choreographed, if I may say. You announce a summit, you attract the people, and then you make the announcement, and the announcements will be made at some point in the fall. That's the hopes that I was told that Mr. Carney is entertaining, that this will lead to major investment in our own country.
You know what's interesting about that, JD, and I think you're right. And I really think the reason why foreign investors are looking in our direction is because they always wanted to be in the Big Apple with all the money coming out of, the stock exchange in Manhattan. The problem is is they're looking at it and saying that the stability there is just not there. And then they look to Canada and say, holy smokes, like look at this little country up here. It's got lots of green space. It's a wonderful place. It's got beautiful social platforms for people, and it cares about its people and takes care of them. And everybody in the world wants to deal with a Canadian business. Why wouldn't I invest my money there? Why wouldn't you invest in something that has stability and reliability behind it? I think that's making good sense. And I think that's why I think this will prove to be Mark Carney's, a silver bullet.
I agree with you. Stability and also reliability, but also full of resources. We've got resources to sell to the world, like all the countries in the world. I think envy Canada for that position. We've got oil, we've got natural gas, we've got critical minerals, we've got lumber, we've got talent, we've got everything. We've got cards to play with. Now the key question is, how intelligently are we going to play those cards so that we improve our economic security, our national security, and our own sovereignty in the face of, I would say, headwinds.
You know what?
South of the border.
I think we've already seen some of this pre-announced from the investment summit coming into Toronto in the fall of 2026. As you point out, they'll have more announcements and then actual announcements across the country to follow that up. I think that's going to be important, because if we get to where we think we're heading to in the next couple of weeks on the trade negotiations and things go worse before they get better, it's going to be a rocky road, and we're going to need to see some positive announcements. But the one thing that I don't think has escaped the business community, and this is, you talked about a little bit, is everyone, I want to do business with the U.S. because it's open free markets. I think what the U.S. is now known for is unpredictability, grift, selling access, and not in some behind thing. This is the president of the United States saying, I'll let you know what my true social post is if you give me $100,000. It's all in the open. And in other parts, when you do business in Africa or other parts of the world, that's illegal. It's actually illegal on the books, and people get thrown in jail in Canada for doing that sort of thing. So it's just remarkable.
And you call that corruption also.
Yeah, it's corruption.
There's a name for that. There's a word for that. It's corruption.
But my point is, I think the rest of the world, why would they invest here? Rule of law, transparency, the court system, the government is not unfettered. And you've got someone who the world trusts. And I mean, I hate to say that, it's not a partisan comment. People trust Mark Carney. He has a track record. And so, it's not surprising to me that everyone wants to put their capital here and say, when things are crazy, where do you want to be? A place that's got natural resources, has got good infrastructure, educated workforce, and has access market to what, 3/4 of the world now, aside from the US? And
it's ready to do business with anybody.
And is ready to do business. I think those things in the medium and longer term are really going to pay dividends for Canada, and that's what we hope. We'll have to keep on monitoring that, JD.
And you know what? As an observer, I will put my money on Canada succeeding.
Yeah, for sure,
Absolutely.
for sure. Hey, JD, just back to your comment about the by-election coming up. That if Pierre Poilievre were to lose that seat, that would really jeopardize his position. Would it be as a result of his caucus then kind of rebelling a little bit and saying, okay, you know what, you gotta, we have a wonderful system in our country where we can let other people throw the prime minister to the wolves, and the leader of the party to the wolves, like happened with Justin Trudeau. It was his own people that turned on him in the end and got him out. Do you think that's exactly what will happen? In maybe not this particular time, but do you think the caucus is their patience is wearing thin?
I believe so, and you could see proof of that by having some caucus members being very disorganized and chipping at each other. There's a lack of discipline within the ranks of the Conservative Party. The morale is not great, and the polls have been so bad over the last few weeks that I wouldn't be surprised if there's a rebellion, and some people are starting to invoke the Reform Act, which allows the MPs to throw their leader out of the leadership position if the party has decided to put itself under that the statute that is offered to every party. But only the Conservative Party did that after the election. So this is a venue that is open to the Conservative Party if they start to rebel. I think the knives are being sharpened as we speak.
It's shocking to me that the only course that Pierre Poilievre had to repair and revive his own political chances was to stay relatively quiet, say we will point out errors, but we're in Canada's corner for the next 12 months, and you'll have nothing but support for Prime Minister. And in a year from now, when nothing's done, it would be the time when people will naturally they may be more open to saying, yeah, the guy sold us a bill of goods, but they didn't do it. They couldn't do it for more than a week at a time.
Yep.
And most Canadians have no interest in politics right now. Donald Trump's doing enough for the entire world, and no one wants to see it. We just want to get through and live our lives, and I don't think that he gets that. And Poilievre doesn't get that, and that's a big mistake.
And JD, one more little confirmation here. Well, before we all break up here for the week and go our separate ways, do you notice that the background that Ian's got behind him that is making him look like he's got a paper plate on his head upside down? What was going on there, Ian?
Oh, I think this is my my studio is starting to implode. Literally, the thing on the roof that kind of keeps the sound in is falling down, so it gets on top. Right, see, there it is, right on top.
Oh yeah, there it is. It looks like you got a paper plate upside down. On the top
no one can see this, so they don't know what you're talking about. But that's usual. It's not unusual for Greg. No one ever knows what you're talking about. Thank God we have JD to try and make.
But I do very well at describing what it looks like.
No, you do.
With a paper plate.
Listen, we're gonna leave it there. JD, as always, thank you for making Greg smarter and for sharing your wisdom with our listeners. We've been joined by the inimitable Joel-Denis Bellavance, the Ottawa Bureau Chief for La Presse.
Thank you so much for inviting me again.
All right, we'll be back with more on Business to Business, powered by Waterloo Region Health Network Foundation right after the break.
The Waterloo Regional Health Network Foundation is innovating healthcare every day in the Waterloo region. It is our collective responsibility to support our hospitals so that they can have the equipment necessary, not only to care for us, but to inspire the best and brightest healthcare minds to come and make a home right here in the Waterloo region. You may not need them today, but there will be a day when we all do. Reach deep if you can and give generously.
Welcome back to Business, powered by the Waterloo Region Health Network Foundation. And we're joined now, Gregory, by Corey Lasso. He's the president at Chart Design Build and the driving force between Chart Drive for a kids' mental health golf tournament on August the 18th. And you know, Greg, we love these stories because it's people investing in their community, and sometimes the reasons are always different, but people are supporting our community, and that's so essential to make sure we have the healthcare and the supports we need within the community.
Yeah, Corey, welcome to the show. Thanks very much for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Chart Design and Build has been involved with Drive for Kids Mental Health for a long, long time. And it's in support of mental health services at the WRHN Waterloo Regional Health Network. How long have you been hosting this event? And, really give us kind of, how did Corey Lasso and Chart Build Design get involved?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, this is our fourth year of doing a charity golf tournament with WRHN, and this year we hope to have raised just over $65,000 for the event. And naturally, it was an easy transition to get into supporting mental health, just with some of the challenges that personally I've dealt with mental health, and then also some family members. So we just really wanted to help the community out.
Now, the tournament raises funds for mental health at Waterloo Region Health Network Foundation, but specifically for kids. Why the focus on support for kids?
Yeah, it's at the end of the day, as a human being, we want to support as much as possible, and it can get overwhelming just with what's going on around the world and in our community in particular. So I've kind of decided, and my family's decided that we're going to support the most vulnerable, and for us, that's children. I have two young girls at home, and as well my nephew, he was 18 years old, and at the time I was only 25 years old. And unfortunately, we lost my nephew to, him taking his own life. And we just really wish that there was some supports that he was aware of. And it's opened our eyes to, wanting to support and create awareness for mental health in general, specific to children.
Corey, I know, we had a little pre-discussion before we came on the air here, but talked about, all kinds of things that we know about, because we're kind of in touch with things as to, some of the, not inadequacies, but some of the, better parts of healthcare that we would need. But it really takes business folks that are focused on helping the community like you. What does it mean from a business perspective for you to support healthcare in this way?
Yeah, I think as a business owner, and we've been around for 45 years now. My dad started the company in 1980, so we have a great support group as far as local trades, contractors, clientele, and I feel like we're being called to use our resources to help our community. Not everybody has the connections that we have, and uh, um, I really feel like other people involved and run an event instead of just, let's host a barbecue at the shop and, it's free food. Well,
Yeah.
let's raise some money. Let's
Yeah.
have fun and raise some money.
So, what can people expect from the tournament on Tuesday? I mean, every golf tournament's a little different. Tell us about the tournament itself and what you're hoping to get out of it in terms of not only the raising of the funds, but raising the awareness too.
Yeah, selfishly, it's just a good time getting out there with our friends, family, and local contractors to chase after a ball for 18 holes. I was actually at the Zach Hyman charity golf tournament in Toronto a couple weeks ago, and that was a wild experience. I was able to kind of take away some key things on what they were doing successful, and we're trying to bring them into the event this year. And a lot of that goes to just overall engagement at the holes. So we're bringing in some local companies to offer some free food, play some games. At 18 holes for 144 golfers can end up being 5 to 5.5 hour rounds. So
Mm-hmm.
there are some waiting. So we try to make it enjoyable. But at the end of the day, we're not here to have fun. We're here to create awareness. We're here to educate people that, mental health is a problem. It is something that isn't just happening outside of our community. It's happening right here at home.
Yeah. Corey, yourself and chart design are, really well known in the community from, certainly from a business perspective. You're also well known from your philanthropic work and how you help. We had a little conversation, as I said before we went on. You talked about other services that we should be kind of focusing on with WRHN as well. But I think what is maybe most important right now for you to share, Corey, is to motivate your peers in business to say, we all have a responsibility. It's so important for us to raise funds to create a better healthcare system because Nobody's got a fence around them that's not going to be impervious to having health issues across their path in their life, whether it's an employee, whether it's a family member, whether it's themselves. How important is it for businesses to step up to the plate and be leaders in the community with supporting healthcare services?
Yeah, absolutely. I think at the end of the day, we sometimes live in tunnel vision. We feel that we don't need these services because it's not affecting our lives. It's not affecting, somebody that we know personally. We support the POGO network, which is helping children and their families that are fighting cancer. So we're the title sponsor for their charity walk run. And for me, like it's just so devastating that any family would have to go through something like that. So um, I think it's it's important for us to kind of open our eyes and listen to the news, understand what's actually happening in our neighborhood, in our community, and let's continue to work together to make these support networks like POGO, like Food for Kids Waterloo Region is another one that helps nourish children in our community. We run a charity barbecue for that, and yeah, it's not just happening around the world. These are things that need support right here at home.
Yeah, for sure.
Listen, Corey, thanks so much for joining us today. This is how community gets built. You're a community builder and supporting healthcare at Waterloo Region Health Network Foundation. So important. We really appreciate you joining us today and sharing with us the Chart Drive for Kids Mental Health Golf Tournament on August 18th. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we have been joined by Corey Lasso. He's the president of Chart Design Build, and you can find out more information about Chart Drive for Kids Mental Health Golf Tournament on August the 18th.
And where do you go to get that information? Well, go to WRHNF.ca/events. Register today. Always great information from our good friends at the Waterloo Regional Health Network Foundation. Well, that's all the time we have for Business to Business this week. I want to remind you, check out our websites, thegreaterkwchamber.com or cambridgechamber.com for all of our upcoming events. You won't want to miss any of them. And of course, stay in touch with b2bwr.ca. That's B, the number 2, BWR.ca for all of our upcoming episodes here on Business to Business, powered by the Waterloo Regional Health Network Foundation.